Hey, welcome back. Looks like Yogi here is not too terribly interested in off-grid architecture. I think he just wants a picnic basket, but that's okay. We're still here to cover the absolute best architecture for small off-grid cabins in the Appalachians. And particularly, we want to talk about why this is so good for shed to cabin-based builds. Behold the Dogtrot. What's a Dogtrot, you ask? Well, it is simply two structures combined together with a common roof with a breezeway in between. It's a very simple architecture, as you can see, and it was easy to build and very popular if you go back a couple centuries to the 1700s and 1800s in Appalachia. It's obviously not so common anymore, probably because it doesn't really have the surface area to volume ratio that would be conducive to modern grid-powered central heat and air. However, if you're off grid, even today, this is a very innovative design with some pretty interesting advantages, which we're going to cover in this video. So I hope you stick around. To understand the most interesting feature of the Dogtrot, we've got to stop for a moment and think about physics. So specifically the Bernoulli principle and the Venturi effect. Now, feel free to stop and Google those if you're not familiar with them, but very briefly, the Bernoulli principle states that in a steady horizontal fluid flow, the speed of a fluid increases simultaneously with a decrease in its pressure. To give you a couple of examples of the way this works, you could think about an airbrush, okay, where you've got, fluid, in this case, compressed air, flowing, and then it creates a decrease in pressure, which sucks paint up from a little jar beneath it into the flow and out onto whatever object you're painting, as an example. Another very interesting example occurred this past week where I believe a Ryanair passenger got partially sucked out of a window in a 737, and passengers had to pull him back in. So, you've probably seen a lot of movies where when somebody shoots out a window or opens a door on an airplane, everything inside gets sucked out. Well, that's the Bernoulli principle and the Venturi effect, right? So what in the world are we talking about that for? Well, very simply, when the wind blows ever so gently on one side of this cabin, the little Dogtrot breezeway forces that air into a narrower passage. It constricts the air, and that creates low pressure, which causes the air to increase in speed. That's a long way of saying if you're standing in the Dogtrot, you're going to feel more of a breeze than if you were just standing outside next to the cabin, right? Now, this effect benefits a lot more than whoever's just chilling out, cooling off in the breezeway. It's hard to see from the pictures, but what you'll find in the architecture are windows facing the breezeway from the rooms on either side. And what happens is when you open these windows, just like the airplane, sucking things out, and the airbrush pulling paint up and into the flow, opening a window creates a draft, right? It'll ventilate the rooms on either side and cool those off as well, right? Now, one tip, if you do decide to build one of these things, is you'll have to pay attention to what combination of windows you open. You'll figure it out pretty quickly how to manage your airflow, but just as a thought exercise to demonstrate how this type of cabin works, if you were to open the windows facing the breezeway to create the draft, but you leave all the rest of the windows closed, then it's going to pull that air from the chimney, right? So if you're trying to cook on that chimney, your fire's not going to draft because the air's moving the wrong way, right? And it's going to fill your room up with smoke. just as an example, right? So just depending on which way the wind's blowing and so forth, you'll figure out pretty quick which windows to open to maximize your ventilation. Now let's get to the main point of the video, actually, and that is how easy it is to create a Dogtrot with pre-manufactured sheds. So a lot of people are building shed to cabin builds, but really all you got to do is put two together, facing each other, with their porches, and you've got a Dogtrot. If you play with some of the configuration utilities on the manufacturer's websites, you can see the possibilities are pretty much endless, right? You can put two flat, straight porches together to create something that looks like the old architecture. Or you can use, an L shape like I show here, or two L shapes, just whatever meets your needs, right? What I'm showing here is the original intent for my cabin. However, I never followed through because, as it turns out, I don't really need any space. I have all the space I need. What I need is a garage and a firewood shed and some other things, but not really more interior. Of course, what you do is going to depend on your needs, and that also kind of illustrates the flexibility of this architecture, right? So, for starters, depending on your budget, you can build one half and then wait and then add another half as funds allow, or as your needs change, or as your family grows, let's say. If you do have a big family, and you want some privacy for the adults, maybe you make one side a bedroom. Or if energy savings and heat management is your biggest concern, make one side a kitchen and bathroom, keep all your plumbing in one spot, and then just heat and cool the other side. That's a very, very efficient design. Or you could build a garage for a side-by-side, or a storage unit, or a workshop. Really, the possibilities are endless, and that just demonstrates the flexibility of this architecture. One last advantage I'll mention here is the roof line is very simple, and that is conducive to rainwater catchment. Simple, straight gutters, helps the water flow, makes it easy to catch. You don't have any expensive bins or, extra downspouts and stuff. It's quick and easy, right? So the next thing we want to talk about here, though, is if you do move forward with a design like this, you need to put some thought into your site layout, right? So before you build, you want to kind of know the direction your prevailing winds come from and how fast the winds are moving. In my particular case, where I placed my cabin is in a saddle on top of the mountain. So the winds kind of move up through the holler and they come across through this channel between two peaks. And they're moving plenty fast for me. I don't actually want the wind moving any faster than it already does here. So if I needed the extra space, instead of creating the Dogtrot, linearly as shown in the pictures, I would probably put the second cabin connected in an L shape where it didn't actually increase the airflow and where it would make the porch a little more square. In any event, I hope this video has been helpful and giving you something to cogitate on. Well, that's about all I have to say. Y'all come back now.